5 years ago, Brian and Heather bought their very first home. It was a 1,300 square foot bungalow in a vibrant neighborhood near downtown. The house had 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, which sounds small, but they've always believed that most people live in way more house than they really need. In fact, they felt that any family should be able to stay in a house like this forever. Well, things change. 2 years ago, they had their first child, and just last week, they found out there's another baby on the way. They still love their little home and the walkable neighborhood they thought they'd never leave. But they find themselves in a dilemma that so many young families face. The house and the yard are just too small. The local schools aren't up to par. And now that they have kids, crime is getting to be more of a concern. And honestly, they'd like to surround themselves with more young families like theirs. Both Brian and Heather have good-paying jobs, and they've diligently saved money for several years. Heather, of course, watches all those home design shows on TV, plus her sister is an aspiring interior designer and blogger. With their knowledge and resources, Heather and Brian figure they can design and build the house of their dreams without upending their comfortable life. So they get to work. Without a specific location in mind, they start looking at floor plans online, and they find what seems to be the perfect dream home. All they need now is a lot to build on. They bought the floor plan at a fraction of what they would have spent with an architect, and they already know exactly what finishes they want to include. Their future home is going to be 2 stories. It has cute wooden shiplap siding with stone accents around the front porch. Plus, the design includes a detached 2-car garage in the back. They're getting more and more excited every day. After some research, they find that the national average to build a house like this is between $140 to $150 per square foot. After comparing that price to some spec houses they've seen in the area, those new build prices seem to be in the same range. Over the weekend, Brian and Heather decided to drive around the neighborhood on the west side of town. It's a great area with big lots, plenty of large oak trees, a strong HOA that helps regulate development, good schools, and a nearby green space for walking and biking. They found a for sale by owner property that hadn't yet been listed on MLS. The house was clearly in disrepair, but it's on a beautiful corner lot, and they're going to be tearing it down anyway. Full of excitement, they called the number on the sign, and it turns out the homeowner is asking $50,000 less than most of the other houses they've seen recently. They also learned that the house did flood during a recent hurricane, but they're reassured it was the first time, and the current owner is pretty sure it's not going to happen again. With so many new homes going up in this west side neighborhood, Brian and Heather feel like this is a great investment. The next day, they write a contract, and a month later, they close with a 30-year conventional mortgage. Brian and Heather are pretty pleased right now. But how do you think they're going to be feeling when they learn about their new neighborhood's deed restrictions and HOA regulations? Tune in next week to see just how badly they're going to be regretting some of these biggest and most expensive choices they've ever made. Hey there, and welcome to the Your Project Shepherd Construction Podcast. I'm your host, Curtis Lawson. I'm the owner of Shepherd Construction Advisors and Crafted Custom Homes. The story that we just began about Brian and Heather will continue throughout this first season of the Your Project Shepherd Construction Podcast. It's a fictitious story, and in all my years in this profession, I've never seen someone make all these mistakes on one property. But Brian and Heather's story is based on a combination of bad decisions that I've seen folks make over and over. And my hope in telling you the story and talking about these problems that Brian and Heather encounter is so that just maybe I can prevent someone else from going down the wrong path and doing things that cost them a whole lot of money and heartache. The goal of this podcast is to get you, the consumer, to choose the right process to build or remodel your home. Because building is not just about creating a schedule or picking out those pretty shiny things. It's about having an effective process and putting that into motion from concept to completion in a predictable manner. Throughout this first season, I'm going to walk you through everything that you need to know about making informed decisions in the home building and remodeling process. This includes decisions about how to assemble your design and construction team, how to choose the right site to build your home, how to design the right house for your family and one that fits the property, and making it through this construction process, hopefully without committing a crime against your builder or breaking up with your spouse. I'm not doing this podcast because I have tons of free time or just love to hear myself talk. I'm doing it because I truly care about people And I hate seeing the bad decisions that cost people loads of money and their mental health. I also started it because I get asked the same questions all the time. Things like, I want to build a house, but it seems overwhelming. Where do I start? How much does a house cost to build per square foot? How do I pick an architect or a designer? Or I get these a lot. I'm having this weird problem with my house. Can you help me figure it out? Or I think my builder might be cutting corners or doing something wrong. What should I do? Sometimes these questions come from people who are already way deep in the hole, and I realize something's missing in this marketplace. So rather than trying to attempt to steer people in the right direction after major mistakes have been made, I would much rather guide you from the beginning. I want to see you take the right steps and hire the right professionals and make sure that your money is spent wisely on this new home. With Shepherd Construction Advisors, you can prevent ever digging that hole that you'll need to climb out of. You'll have expert guidance from day one and never end up in any of Brian and Heather's unfortunate situations. Through the upcoming episodes and seasons, we'll continue to follow Brian and Heather's story. And as you listen to this unfold, I'd love to have you send me those questions that you have. There's no dumb questions when you're going to be diving into new territory and spending a lot of your money. So be sure and send those emails to podcast@yourprojectshepherd.com. And at the end of this first season, I'll do a Q&A episode just to answer those. That's all for the Your Project Shepherd Construction podcast for today. I hope you enjoyed this first episode. Be sure and subscribe to the podcast and come back next time when I'll be joined by my friend and local real estate broker, Susan Brock. Susan and I are going to discuss the very first step, the one that Brian and Heather are going to wish they knew earlier, how to find the perfect site for your home. Thanks a lot.